The rules were whispered right behind me, even before I had a chance to turn around. You hide. You stay silent. You do not come out when your name is called. I froze, standing in the hallway of an abandoned school. Dust hanging thick in the air, moonlight slicing through the broken windows. I was alone, or at least I thought I was. The voice was both close and distant, like it was coming from inside the very walls. I had only come here to film a quick night exploration video with my friends. Now, the building felt like it was alive, and it was listening. Earlier that evening, we were all joking about this place. The school shut down after a fire years ago, and ever since, kids have dared each other to sneak inside. The local stories said something stayed behind when everyone else ran. We just laughed it off and decided to play a game of hide and seek for the camera. One round. Simple. We drew lots, and I was the seeker. My friends scattered into the dark classrooms and stairwells, their laughter echoing as I counted by the front doors. My voice felt too loud in the silence, and the old building answered with creaks and distant thumps. When I got to 20, I turned around. The halls were completely empty. The air felt colder. I called out their names. No answer. I started walking slowly, listening for any sound. Footsteps echoed, but they weren't mine. Lockers rattled softly, like fingers tapping against the metal. I tried to convince myself it was just old pipes and my own nerves getting the best of me. I checked the gym first. Moonlight spilled across the dusty floor, and the tattered curtains swayed even though there was no wind. I called out again. A faint giggle answered from the bleachers. I smiled, thinking I'd found someone, and moved closer. But as I approached, the giggle stopped. The bleachers were empty. That's when the whisper came, right behind my ear. It said, "Found you." I spun around, but nothing was there. My heart pounded so hard it actually hurt. I let out a weak laugh and told the camera, "This place is really messing with me." Just then, the camera light flickered. I continued down the main hall, past doors that stood open like dark mouths. Inside one classroom, the desks were stacked high in a corner, creating a dark, hollow space. I saw a shape move inside. It crept closer, crouched down, reached in, and grabbed an arm. It was ice cold. The arm didn't pull back. I dragged the person out into the moonlight and screamed. It wasn't my friend. The skin was a stretched, sickly gray. The eyes were open, way too wide, glassy and lifeless. The mouth was stitched shut with black thread. The body was dressed in a burned and torn school uniform. As it hit the floor, it cracked like old, dry wood. I ran. The halls seemed to change as I moved. Corners stretched into impossible lengths, and doorways shifted. School felt like it was getting bigger and tighter all at once. I screamed my friends' names until my throat was raw. The only answer was laughter, coming from different directions all around me. I found a stairwell and scrambled up. Footsteps rushed above and below me. Shadows that looked like running children danced on the walls. I chased one, thinking it was real, but it just slipped through a solid wall and vanished. Suddenly, a school bell rang, sharp and deafeningly loud. Lockers slammed open and shut in waves down the hall. From inside them, hands reached out, clawing at the air, their fingers scraping against the metal and leaving sparks. I ducked into the nurse's office and locked the door. The cabinets rattled. The smell of antiseptic mixed with smoke filled the room. I crouched under a desk, trying to stay silent. That's when I heard the counting. 1, 2, 3. The voice was calm and patient, and it seemed to come from everywhere at once. I held my breath as the numbers climbed. At 20, the counting stopped. My name was called, softly. I didn't answer. The door handle began to turn, slowly. The lights flickered, and the room grew colder. Frost crept across the floor, toward me. I squeezed my eyes shut and covered my mouth. A shadow slid under the door. It rose up, forming into a tall, thin figure with limbs that bent all the wrong ways. Its face was smooth, with no features at all, except a wide, deep carved grin. It tilted its head and sniffed the air like a predator. Then it laughed, and the sound was a chorus of children's laughter. It said, "You broke the rules." The desk I was under lifted off the floor and slammed into the opposite wall. I scrambled out and ran past the figure. Its hand brushed my back, a burning cold that seared into my skin. I burst out into the auditorium. The stage lights snapped on, blindingly white. Every seat in the theater was filled with children, all sitting perfectly still. In unison, they all turned their heads to look at me. And on the stage stood my friends. They smiled, but their smiles were stiff and unnatural. Their eyes were wrung to dark, too empty. They spoke together in one voice. "You have to hide now." The stage curtains closed behind me, trapping me in darkness. His hands grabbed me and shoved me forward. I fell into a narrow space that smelled of dust and decay. The curtains opened again. I was inside a locker. The door slammed shut. The counting began again outside, slower this time and closer. I pressed myself into the back corner as something scratched the locker door from the outside. Fingernails dragged across the metal, slow and deliberate. A voice whispered through the vent, "Found you." The locker door burst open. Cold air rushed in. The tall figure loomed over me. Behind it, my friends stood, their smiles wider than should be possible. I screamed, and the sound just cut off. The next morning, sunlight streamed through the broken windows. Police searched the school after a passerby reported hearing strange noises. They found the camera on the floor, still recording. They never found me. That night, a group of teenagers found a video online and watched it. At the very end, after the camera falls to the ground, the screen just shows a dark hallway. Then, a voice whispers clearly, "Your turn to hide." If this story leaves you breathless, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button.